Well, hello everyone. We're here again with Chef AJ in her kitchen in LA, and right now she's going to show us a delicious recipe for a strawberry cheesecake, I
Right.
believe.
Actually, it's a decadent strawberry chocolate cheesecake. You know, I was the former executive pastry chef for almost 5 years at Sante Restaurant on La Brea in Los Angeles. And this is one of the desserts we actually served in the restaurant. And I think after the German chocolate cake and the frozen peanut butter chocolate cheesecake, this was one of the top sellers. And it certainly is the most beautiful. I'm known for my desserts that don't contain any refined sugar. Well, let me explain as we go along what that means, because I do use dates. It's not a refined sugar, but anytime you use chocolate, it's going to be difficult to get away completely from the sugar unless you're willing to just use 100% the bar, which I'm going to show you there is an option for that, but then you're going to need a lot more sweetener, like, you know, the date syrup, which is what I'm using. What I'm going to be using, though, for the chocolate chips is Sunspire. They are grain sweetened. So, I mean, sugar really is sugar, but you could argue that it's less sweet because it's made from barley malt. This is what they use, like my good friend Chef Eric Lechasseur, the former pastry chef of M Cafe, the owner of Seed. This is what the macrobiotic chef used, but you can always just use 100% pure chocolate unsweetened, but you are going to then need something to sweeten it because chocolate's bitter. So let me just show you the recipe how I made it in the restaurant, and feel free to make modifications.
All right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to melt the chocolate. Now, really the best way to do this is with a double boiler, which I don't happen to have. So I'm using a nonstick pan, and what you need to do is be very, very careful. You can't walk away. You need to watch chocolate. I'm going to put it just sort of on medium heat. Unfortunately, I have an electric stove where I live, not a gas stove. And in my nonstick pan, what I have are the 10 ounces, which is one bag of the Sunspire grain sweetened chocolate chips, and 3/4 of a cup of date syrup. I'm using the organic date syrup from I Love Date Lady, which has nothing but dates in it. Be very careful when buying non-organic date syrup or other date syrups, because a lot of times they have sugar added. This is made from just dates. I have made my own date syrup. It's just a little bit too labor intensive, and this is a very good quality product, so this is what I use. And as I mentioned, if you really look at chocolate chips, most of the time the first ingredient is sugar. It's not even chocolate. You know, I don't eat chocolate anyway, so the people that order this dessert, I'm using what I feel is the best one out there. There are some chocolate chips now that are sweetened with stevia. I don't think that's any better than sugar. In fact, I think it might even be worse. But the only thing else you could do is just use 100% pure chocolate, which we're going to use actually for the glaze, but then you're going to need more than 3/4 of a cup of date syrup. So we're going to let this melt, and while this is melting, you want to be careful stirring it occasionally. Double boiler would probably be safer.
And that was the chocolate chips with what else?
With 3/4 of a cup of date syrup. Okay. So it's a 10-ounce bag of the Sunspire grain sweetened chocolate chips with 3/4 of a cup of date syrup. If you use a double boiler, what you do is the bottom part has the water, you bring it to a boil, and then you put the second pot on top. Now here I have my food processor fitted with the S blade because it looks like a letter S, and in it I have 2 cups of almond flour. You can buy almond flour at most stores. Trader Joe's sells almond flour as well as cashew flour, which is just ground up nuts. So if you were allergic to almonds, you could do the cashew. And all it is nuts. So you could technically do this yourself. It's just that I find that when you buy it, it's more finely ground, and it just saves me a little bit of work. So I'm using 2 cups of almond flour. And to that, I am adding 12 ounces of pitted dates. I'm using the organic dates from I Love Date Lady, a really delicious sweet date. You always want to make sure, even if they're pitted, to check that there's no pits because you don't want to ruin your blade. 12 ounces is approximately 2 cups, but as a pastry chef, everything gets weighed. That's how we do it in restaurants. That's why things come out so consistently delicious, because we do things by weight. And you can see how luscious and shiny the chocolate is. One of the reasons I'm able to do this safely without a double boiler is because there was liquid. I would never attempt to melt chocolate by itself without some kind of liquid in there. Because you will burn it. And once you burn chocolate or scorch it, you can't go back. You can't use it. You have to throw it out. So there we have it. I'm turning the heat off. I'm removing it from the heat source. I'm just placing it over there. And first we're going to make the crust. We're using a Springform pan. I like this better for cheesecakes because it comes right out very easily. You can place a piece of wax paper or parchment paper on the ring if you want, just to ensure that it doesn't stick. One less thing to clean. Now, I process the dates and the nuts together, and then what I do is I squeeze a little bit of it into a ball because it's ready when it will go easily into a ball. If it didn't, what I could do is add a few more dates to get it to stick, but I've made this so many times, and this seems to be the exact amount if you do 12 ounces, unless for some reason maybe your dates are extremely dry. After you get it into a ball, you break it. This is called the break point. If it breaks easily without crumbling, you know you're fine. And then you're safe to add your 1 tablespoon of alcohol-free vanilla extract. I make my own out of 2 vanilla beans and a cup of water in a high-powered blender. It's actually vanilla water because I have not been able to find a vanilla extract that really is truly sugar-free and also alcohol-free. So I add that, and then I briefly process, and then I pour this into my Springform pan, and this is my crust.
I wonder why is it that it has alcohol?
That's a good question. I don't know. A lot of it just anytime you look at a recipe for homemade vanilla, often it has vodka. I don't know, but I'm sensitive to alcohol. I don't think it tastes good, the extracts with alcohol. And when I worked at the restaurant, we had a lot of celebrities, some that continue to buy my desserts, that actually been through rehab for alcohol. And when you're an alcoholic, you can't even have extracts or mouthwash with alcohol. So very easy to make this crust. And if you wanted to, you could put a couple of tablespoons of cocoa powder in if you wanted the crust to look chocolatey, but I want it to sort of look like a graham cracker cheesecake crust. So the crust was very, very easy to make. And now what I want to do is just quickly rinse out my food processor, get all the crumbs away so that I can make the filling. Ready? Okay. So now let's make the filling. We're going to start with 1 box, 12.3 ounces of tofu. This is the kind of tofu that comes in aseptic boxes, not usually in the refrigerated section, and I like the extra firm for desserts. The tofu that's packed in water is fine for stir fries and eating, but for desserts, you really want
dry.
Yeah, you want this kind of tofu. It's just so much better. Now here's 1 cup, actually it's 8 ounces of cream cheese, non-dairy cream cheese. I make my own using the recipe from Miyoko Shinner's book, Artisan Vegan Cheese. And it's just made from cashews and a tablespoon of yogurt, and that's it. I don't put the salt in she calls for, and it's very easy to make. It's very inexpensive. If you don't want to do that, you can buy non-dairy cream cheese. Miyoko sells a whole line of refrigerated cream cheeses, which you can buy. Like I say, it's just cheaper and easier for me to make my own, but feel free. Just realize that some of the non-dairy ones may have oil, and I don't use oil, so be careful. You want one that hopefully doesn't. So 1 cup or 8 ounces of non-dairy cream cheese. There we go. And then a 1/2 cup of a very good quality cocoa powder. I use Valrhona. I am a chocolate snob. Even though I don't eat it anymore, I remember when I did, and I think it is the most delicious. The darker, the richer. You want to get one doesn't have alkali, because that has baking soda generally, and it negates the antioxidant properties, and it just doesn't taste as good. So get a good quality one. 1 tablespoon of the alcohol-free vanilla and sugar-free vanilla. And now we're going to add the melted chocolate with the date syrup. Look at that. Oh, it's beautiful. And again, make sure you don't have to have an expensive food processor, but you do have to have a big one. You don't want to get the 8 cup, the 10 cup, the 12 cup. You want to get one that's at least 14 cup, because you need room in there to do what you got to do. Because it's very hard to cut these recipes in half. So get every last bit of the chocolate. Smells amazing already. And again, remember, you don't necessarily have to dessert to be healthy, but these are treats. I don't recommend this for breakfast or every day, or, depending on what your health and weight loss goals are. I personally do not eat dessert. Really, I want to say ever, but I ate dessert once last year. So under medical supervision at True North. So certainly wasn't chocolate and it wasn't peanut butter. So I put everything in the food processor. Every now and then, you want to take a spatula, scraping down the sides just so that everything gets fully incorporated. Boy, is this thick and rich and decadent. That's why it's called Decadent Strawberry Chocolate Cheesecake.
Yeah.
Wow, it actually is done. I won't need to scrape the sides down.
Yeah.
So then you place it over your crust. Wow. That's amazing. You could eat the filling like it is, I think, even without the crust, and then just put strawberries on it. But it is very, very, very rich, just so you know. And so when desserts are this rich, you don't need a large piece.
No.
Whoops, getting it all over the floor. Now, I've showed you this before, but there's a lot of batter of the mousse stuck to the ring. If you want to get that off, you use a little bit of what's called centrifugal force. You put the food processor back on the base. You do a quick pulse, and as you can see, it's completely clean now. Now I can get that last bit of filling in. Now, this spatula is great for getting it out of the food processor, but for making a nice even top, I really recommend you get something called an offset spatula at a cake decorating store, or even they have them at Walmart for about $7. It just makes it so much easier to make a nice top. These come in different sizes. Just want to make sure that you get a nice even top, and then we're going to place strawberries attractively on the top, and then we're going to make another topping with drizzle some chocolate. So you can see that as delicious and decadent as this looks, it is not very difficult. No. And when you work in a restaurant, you're making the same thing over and over, so that's why I learned to make my recipes as easy as possible so that I'd get out of there, you know. So there we go. Nice beveled top. Okay, somebody can lick this later. So what I've done is I've taken some strawberries, and I look for the biggest ones I can find when I'm making this dessert. And what I do is I just take a knife and I cut off the top so that I have a nice flat surface. And then I find them, and I start in the middle. You push them down. You do this while the batter is just made, so it's nice and soft, and you can push them down, not all the way, but just so they stick. And these are organic strawberries. And again, you might not always be able to find large strawberries, so of course you use what you can. You're just probably going to need more. You probably need almost 2 pounds of strawberries for this dessert. Chocolate with fruit is an amazing combination. Yeah. And hopefully you have enough to go all the way around. If not, sometimes you have to go get more, but usually this works out right. It's not that you don't want the chocolate to show, it's just that it is a chocolate strawberry cheesecake, so you want as many strawberries as possible. And you just kind of find a place to sneak them in, move it over, whatever you can do to get as many strawberries in as you can. And make sure you got that green part. We could cut these if we wanted to get them to fit. Move them around. I think we're going to make it. Yes, very good. Very good. Okay. Room for one more. I was really going to show you how to make a strawberry fan as a decoration, but since I have this one little space here, I think I'm just going to put this strawberry there. There we go. Beautiful. Now, how do we make this even more beautiful? Well, get back our, we don't have to clean this because all that was in it was chocolate and date syrup. So now we're going to make a topping to drizzle over the top. We're going to take 2 ounces of unsweetened chocolate, 1/4 cup of date syrup, which is 4 tablespoons. I'm going to turn on medium-low, and 1/4 cup, which is also 4 tablespoons of almond milk. And what we're going to do is we're going to melt this slowly and carefully, stirring, and then when it melts, I'm going to drizzle it over the top.
So that's unsweetened?
Yes, this is unsweetened chocolate. You can buy it in a bar. It's just, they call it baking chocolate often.
Right.
Different brands make it. Trader Joe's has a brand. Ghirardelli's has a brand. and I think there's another one in the regular grocery store. It's called Baker's Chocolate. And
Yes.
It's 100% cacao.
Right.
So,
But you have added some sweetness by adding the
date syrup,
syrup.
right? And I added a little bit of the non-dairy milk. You can use any kind you want, preferably unsweetened, because otherwise it would be too thick because I'm trying to drizzle this over the top.
Right.
Now, what I like to do is put this in the sink and drizzle it there so that if any chocolate goes flying, it stays in the sink. But if I did that, you guys wouldn't be able to see. So we're just going to be very careful, risk messing up the kitchen. This will take, don't be patient. I mean, I could turn this on high, but
That's
then,
okay.
I could burn my chocolate. So I don't want to ever rush chocolate. And I even though I'm not afraid to use a microwave for, reheating a baked potato, I do not recommend it for melting chocolate at all. I know I've heard people say they can do that, but they're just too unpredictable. So, and once you burn chocolate, the smell, you'll know it's just not worth it. So just be patient. This will melt. And I suppose you could just use, I don't see any reason you couldn't use the equivalent amount, 2 ounces of your non-dairy chocolate chips for this, and then just add a little bit of the almond milk to do that. But this is what we had at the restaurant, and I wanted to give you the exact recipe the way I made it. So there we go. You can see it's starting to melt. It's just you're looking for a texture that can be drizzled, because if it's too thick, you can't drizzle it. If it's too thin, it's not so great either. So it's starting to melt, and I'm doing it like I have an electric stove. Unfortunately, there's no gas where I live. It goes up to 10, and I have it on 5. So just be very careful. Be better to use a double boiler. I just don't happen to have one right now. There we go. Look at that. Looking beautiful. Oh boy. You want to just make sure you get it all incorporated. I'm just looking for an almost pourable texture, but not so liquidy. There we go. Once you get all of it melted, you want to make sure to, once it's melted, you want to make sure to turn the heat off, because it could burn. Anyway, there we go. Every little. So now I'm going to turn off the heat.
Okay.
And then, very carefully, I'm going to drizzle over the top. So, like, if I was doing this over the sink, I would take my fork and I'd be flicking it more because I wouldn't worry.
Right. Oh, I see.
Look at how beautiful. Oh, yeah. Nothing like chocolate-covered strawberries.
Nothing. No.
And if it's too thick, all you have to do is add a few drops more of the non-dairy milk to get it to pour. And then we stick this in the refrigerator. This one will not go in the freezer. And it doesn't take very long to set up so that you can remove the ring and cut it. I can't remove the ring right now. It's not quite set up, but
I thought it was in a freezer, but it's in the refrigerator.
This one will go in the refrigerator. And I would say in about maybe 4 hours, depending on how cold your refrigerator is, you'd be ready to take the ring off, but always err on the side of caution, leaving yourself more time. So maybe if you're having a dinner party or giving this to somebody for their birthday, do it the night before. When I've given this as a birthday gift, I like to stick the candles in the strawberries. It's kind of pretty there. That is looking amazing. And we really only dirtied a couple of things. It wasn't a big deal like when you're baking a cake, which is very... And this, of course, is gluten-free. Well, okay, wait a minute. If you're using the Sunspire chips, they have barley malt, so technically not, but wheat-free, but it certainly can be made gluten-free very, very easily. They do sell gluten-free chocolate chips. There you have it. Absolutely beautiful, decadent strawberry chocolate cheesecake. Non-dairy, no cholesterol. Amazing.
Well, thank you, Chef AJ, for yet another marvelous recipe.
Thank you guys for watching.
All
Enjoy.
right.